I would translate them back through essences so they cease to be general and they start to be specific. I would take anything from that, take it back through neighborhoods or statements and convert it. If you have strong elements over in your honest neighborhood, I would make it into an honest reading in your mind. If you have strong elements over in your direct neighborhood, I would make it into a direct neighborhood. I would translate it into the language of you. And you fortunately have a language to translate it into that other people don't. By the same token, when you're doing this and comparing it to neighborhoods, the questions you want to ask is, what neighborhood would that comment fit in, that first-hand comment? Or what conversational vocabulary statement would agree with that or could replace that comment, so I can replace it in my own mind with that? Or what statement might I say back in response to that comment? You gave a strong reading. Well, you know how I am. And pull up one of those things so that you begin to translate those comments into things that you can remember and use in your language. And I think that's the most important thing that you can do with these comments. Otherwise, when you share them back with other people, when you use them to stimulate work in your acting class, when you want to report them to an agent, when you're using their language, those now are not comments personal to you. When you've translated them back to your language and offer them back out, quote them to yourself or to others, suddenly they become comments about you personally. And you have my full permission to translate them into your language, especially when quoting them to others, because if you're going to report to your agent, which is now a second-hand comment, isn't it? When you're going to report to your agent something that was said to you, I would much prefer that you did not quote it as it was said, but that you quote it back into something that refers to you or uses your language, because then it becomes a comment that they can also understand and use. I would consistently translate these comments back through the vocabularies that you've established in class. In that way, you have a place to hang that in the closet that you own of your stuff. You have a place to put it where it fits in and is supported by other parts that you have identified about yourself. Otherwise, these comments become unusable to you. They just are things people said. And when they're said third hand, then they are really now given importance, not translated into language that applies to you, and they are just things that are out there that were said. Now, it's important to do that with the positive comments, but where it's really important is to do it with the critical comments, because those are the ones that will set you back 3 years in your acting progress. And you all have had it happen. Some offhand comment that you've heard third hand has destroyed you for 6 months. And I bet there's not a person in here that has not had that happen, that some director, some casting person has said something, or some cast member has reported to you that the director said this about your thing, and now you've taken some secondhand comment to heart and let it cut you in your analysis of it. So it is especially important that you take the critique, the stuff that you consider not complimentary, and translate that back through your neighborhoods and your language. They weren't saying I gave a weak reading. They were saying I gave, and go find a weak statement from your vocabulary that at least allows you to make that into your sweater, not just a piece of clothes. All right? Always, 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 the only value of this stuff is when you translate it back and allow it to be adjusted to the stuff you've already created as description of yourself. Then when you go back to refer to it, it isn't a matter of praise or critique. It's a matter of more support of me being who I am. If I gave a shitty reading, I gave a shitty reading my way.
Right.
Okay? If I gave an unstudied, unrehearsed, unprepared reading. I gave an unrehearsed, shitty, unprepared reading my way. So then it becomes useful to you if it's critique or if it's praise. Especially, you know, that constructive criticism. Let's translate it into a language that speaks to us. So if it is going to be useful to us, if it is going to be constructive, it is constructive to us in a language that we can immediately fit in with all the other descriptions that you fit into those neighborhoods when you did all that neighborhooding work. Translate it back so it becomes personal to you. Otherwise, it's just potentially hurtful, and where do I put it? And do not allow yourself to be influenced by third-hand stuff. It will never serve a constructive purpose, because you cannot, down here on your gut level, trust anything. You've all played that gossip game when you were a kid, you know, where one person whispers something to one person. By the time it goes around the circle, it is an entirely different thing. That is human nature. Everybody needs to massage what they hear before they repeat it. And when it's about you, those little adjustments and massages can get hugely influential, and they don't need to be. Just don't even hear anything that comes in from more than one to a second party. If there's a third, not interested. Not even interested. All right? How many of you have had that experience where some comment has been destructive to your progress as an actor? That's what I thought. It can be the smallest thing that somebody has said that they forgot they said, and it haunts and hurts your progress as an artist. I don't want it to hurt you as a person, but even more important to me, and given what we discussed earlier tonight, is that it does not hurt you as an artist. Because anything that stops this contribution of you as a storyteller is not only hurtful to you, it's hurtful to everybody who could benefit by your story. If Irving Penn had taken some comment where somebody says, I don't know, his photographs are a little flat. He was the master of the flat photograph, by the way. But if, you know, at 13, somebody said, Jay, a little flat, Irving, you know, the guy down the street who saw your picture told his aunt that your stuff's a little flat, and Irving had quit, he wouldn't have changed, you know, my student's family life. So it's really important that you understand and create a method for yourself to intake this stuff so that it can be personalized and made of value and not damage you as a human being or as an artist that could contribute to the benefit of everybody by staying with your art and continuing to tell stories. Will you all make sure you're careful about it? Okay. What are the rules? No third-hand comments. First-hand comments, pay attention to. Second-hand, grain of salt. Translate all of it through your own vocabulary. Convert the comments to something that fits in one of your neighborhoods, and then you'll be able to use the comment for its maximum benefit and least amount of damage. All right?
Is there ever a time if it's first-hand and it just comes out of nowhere, something, and just strips you bare, that you just let it go?
Well, look, you know, I think the skill of letting things go in general, you know, things that our spouse says, things that our friends say, you know, I think there's a certain amount of letting go, just letting that, because, you know, that's a good skill. But certainly the first-hand ones, you know, that really hurt, even if the intentions were bad. You know, some people just say mean things. It happens. Or some people say very harsh things that are meant to be useful, and we want to be able to take the value. You know, I think that's a matter of personal judgment and taste and resilience, what you can let go, what you take to heart. But I would be sure, especially with the most hurtful ones, is how could that be translated? How could I say that with neighborhoods and words of mine, that thing that just hurt so badly? Because if you're going to make any use of it, because sometimes there are things that we really need to hear that aren't nice to hear. That happens sometimes. And to make the use of those, you know, is we want. And the ones that are just meant hurtfully, and sometimes people are mean, we're never going to be able to let them go unless we go, what would that have, how would I have said that in my language?